Okay, everybody, it's Ted Padroma. I'm here with my buddy Tommy Schaff. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great.
We
I'm
met,
excited to be
gosh,
here. Let's talk about not getting old.
well, we met probably 10 or 12 years ago in a mastermind together. And last year we reconnected at a webinar of all places. I noticed, hey, there's Tommy. I haven't seen him in ever.
We actually reconnected at the Wizard Academy
Right.
through Doug Brown. We had a couple days together down there, which was extraordinary, wasn't it?
Alex Mondosian put those
Yeah,
on.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, he just texted me this morning for
Well,
Speak of
there
the
you go.
Devil.
Small world. Say hi to him for me.
Yeah. And we were just talking. We talked for like 3 hours when we reconnected after that. And you were saying, well, what are you going to do with your life? And I thought, well, I'm 65 at the time. I'm probably going to retire in a couple of years, and who knows? And you said, no, you need to plan for the next 20 years. And at first, he's crazy. I'm going to be like 85. Why do I have to have a plan for that? So tell me more about that, how your theory of you need to plan 20 years, because you got me thinking, I can't just stop working. I can't stop living because you just fade away.
I've thought about this for now about 27 years. I had a young child and I'd come home from a business trip and I'd be a little tired. And my child would run around like in a spinning chair. And every time he'd come by, he'd go, Daddy, play with me. Daddy, play with me. I'm saying, I'm tired. I'm old. And then he would say, You're not old. You're bold. And he didn't really know what he was saying. He was just rhyming words. He wasn't that prescient. But I remembered that, like, you're not old, you're bold. And I'd look and say, well, what will I do with the rest of my life? And my father retired at 62. He owned a company. He was successful, did great things in his life. Had a business partner, which is his brother. My aunt had fibromyalgia, and I think that's called "we don't know what you really have, but
Right.
it's not good." And she was not doing well. And my uncle wanted to serve his wife. He'd been married to my aunt for 30 or so years, and he loved 40 years probably. Loved my aunt, and he said, "I can't do this anymore. I want to be with her as long as she has." And he told my dad that, and my dad said, "Well, I'm not doing this alone." Now, my dad would have worked till he was 80.
Yeah.
My dad loved what he did all day long. He loved what he did. He did the work of 10 people. He was one of the most productive people at what he did that has probably ever been. And then all of a sudden, he went from, I'm at the prime of my life at 62. I'm in the captain of my industry. I'm the best at what I do there is. And then he did nothing. Now, he did spend up and he did a great job of spending time with my mom, which he hadn't done as much. He was a worker and he took care of his family and he loved my mom, but they did not like spend a ton of time together.
Yeah.
Um, he had Saturday nights and Sundays from my mom. And then the rest of the time, he came in and he was tired. And um, so he took care of my mom. And a year later, she did have a stroke and he took care of her and he put her back together. But for 19 years, I've watched my dad, who whistled while he worked every day, and still like counts how many apples he raked up and how many quarts of cherry juice he makes. I watched him hang out with old people, and I watched him play cards with old people, and
Mhm.
I watched him talk about the same thing every day. Politics. Somebody hates this person, the other guy hates the other person. And that's what I'd be like, what are you doing, Dad? And in my conversations, for the greater part of 15 years have been the same conversation. I call him almost every day. And I said, I am not living like that.
Yeah.
I'm not living like that. Dan Sullivan once said in a meeting I was in, and many people listening probably have encountered Dan, who's brilliant. He said, what stops you from getting old are, how much money do you have? How different are your friends, including younger? And
Mhm.
do you have anything to do? And so there comes a time where you don't have any money and you don't want to be a bother. So you just die or you run out of people. Like, the sport of old people is like looking at obituaries.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, there's a bunch of them younger than me that died, and Bob died, and I know this person, and I met him, and I used to play cards with him, and he died. And then there's a time where you go, there's nobody left. So I
Yeah.
have nobody to spend time with. And then the last one is, well, I don't have anything to do. So what do? We watch TV.
Yeah.
My mom and dad are in their 80s. They watch TV. They watch westerns over and over again on like public. I'm like, ah. Um, I decided, what if we didn't do that?
Hmm.
What if we didn't work all the time when we were young? What if we didn't learn all the time when we were young? What if we balanced all that? Richard Bowles, who wrote the book, What Color's Your Parachute? He
Yeah.
wrote a better book called Three Boxes of Life that I recommended to you that day. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
He had this idea that said there are three things we do: we learn, we work, we play. Now, when we're young, we pretty much play all the time and then learn a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we go to college and we learn a bunch, we work a little, and we play a little. And then we work all the time and we don't learn very much and we don't play very much. And then we retire and we don't learn anything and
Hmm.
we don't work. And then now we're supposed to play. And he suggested, what if they're always kind of in balance? What if when you're young, you learn and you work and you play? And in a world that doesn't let kids work anymore, has all
Yeah.
kinds of rules about everything. I worked since I was 12 years old.
Hmm.
And before that, I had paper routes that were over 100. I don't know what it was, but I know I had over 100. And I treasure that experience so much. I still have my double-sided, over the front, over the back. I still have my paper bag from when I was a kid for the Bismarck Tribune because it helps shape who I am.
Yeah.
Going to collect and delivering that and asking for money and saying please and thank you. And my mom, if they gave me candy or whatever at Christmas, making me write a thank you note.
Oh,
And
yeah.
all of that, it shaped who I am. Like that didn't hurt me. It grew me up. And and then you go into your young adulthood. And there are times I worked like overworked, but those are never good times.
No.
And then there's in times where I got in balance. And today, I work hard. When I work, I work.
Hmm.
And when I go somewhere, I take a couple days and I see what's there. I see friends. I experience. I go work somewhere, and then I'm going to go to Washington D.C. in 2 weeks.
Hmm.
When I'm there, I'm going to have a meeting, and then I'm going to go tour NPR with the editor of NPR with the Chicago Cubs. And then the next day, I'm going to go on a tour of the White House, but not on the public tour, but with people that work there. You know
Nice.
why? Because I can. And you know what? Why wouldn't I do that till I'm dead?
Yeah.
And so, like retirement, I'll work less hours. My fees will change. You have to be a certain person for to work with me because I'll change my standards.
Right.
Change. But Drucker worked till he was over, man. George Burns worked till he was 100.
Right. He smokes
Like
cigars every day.
John Wooden, who's my one of my favorites of all time, he was doing speeches, and I didn't do as many.
Yeah.
But he went to his little place and he had breakfast every day at this certain restaurant. People would sit with him and he'd hold court and then he'd fly out on a jet. If you wanted him, you had to fly him out because he wasn't going to fly public. And then he would pontificate. He would share the wisdom that took a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I guess my message to you that day, Ted, and to anyone listening still, probably too, um, you finally know something.
Yeah.
We finally know. You remember when you were like trying to get customers all the time and you didn't know if what you knew and you thought you knew stuff and you really didn't know it?
Yeah.
We finally know something. Why would we quit? That's my thought.
Yeah. No, we have very similar lives. My parents owned a restaurant. And when I was 10 years old, this summer, my father would wake me up at 6 a.m. because I had to go in. They made everything from scratch every day. bread, rolls. They made their own mayonnaise, salad dressing, everything. Get a side of beef. We'd have to cut it up into steaks and grind hamburger. And he woke me up, and I had to work there every day. My kids, neighbors are out playing, having a good time, and I'm there in the restaurant cooking and getting ready for the day. And I just learned that work ethic like that. My father worked until like a couple weeks before he passed away.
Did you like your dad?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Our
so here's my
bonding time
question.
was working together in the restaurant because he was there from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night.
My dad didn't work those kind of hours, but he worked maybe 7 to 6.
Yeah.
And I got to work with my dad. My siblings didn't, and they don't have the experiences I have with my dad. I'd be like, I remember when dad this happened. I remember this. And candidly, my dad's in his 80s. He doesn't remember some of the things.
Hmm.
He's like, that didn't happen. You're full of crap. And I'm like, that happened, Dad. Um, I know because it changed my life those moments. And I had fun with my friends, but I don't remember any moments with my buddies that rivaled the times with my dad.
Yeah.
My dad showing me how accounting works or how to run an invoice or how to reconcile the books or at 12 years old, I was doing two-thirds of his job.
Hmm.
Then my dad could do what he was amazing at. My dad was a great salesman.
Yeah.
And so we got to work with their dads. We
And then
got
when we played, my mother would say, "Get out of the house." They'd send us out in the morning. We'd come home at 6 o'clock for dinner.
Do you remember when they had the day? We lived in the days where they looked for you. They're like, coming out like, get home, ring the bell, like, get home now. Like, we never, like, they didn't have to drag you out somewhere. They
No.
had to drag you back into the house.
Right.
And that was a great time. I don't, there are a lot of great things in the world today. I don't know. We did okay. We had creeks to play in and frogs to catch. I feel like Tom Sawyer. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
So what's a typical day like for you now?
I don't have any typical days. I have days that are really intense where it's meeting, meeting, meeting. And there are days where I'm gonna, be dressed in war paint and get up at a certain time and I'm gonna be ready and I am there to transact business.
Yeah.
I have coaching days, and those are coaching, and they have a speed and a pace to it, but they don't have an outcome, and I don't have the same levels of preparation.
Hmm.
I have days where, what's probably typically true, I see my assistant at 11 o'clock in the morning. First 3 hours of the day, stay out of her way so she can do her job. I talk to her and say, here are my priorities. What are yours? I move them around and then I let her do her job. And then at 11 o'clock, we talk.
Nice.
And I get out of her way again. And candidly, uh, I probably work 4 days a week. And they're good. I mean, they're fast paced. I do a lot in 4 days,
Hmm.
but I rarely work more than four, sometimes three. Um, and I schedule my life in what I do with my calendar is I start with the day and I put in all the days that are important. My birthdays, my family's birthdays, my parents' birthdays, holidays, anniversaries. I put my people in the calendar.
Yeah.
Put my best friends and say, like, what's going on? And then my best friend kids. I have a best friend whose son is a senior at Vanderbilt, plays football. So I put football games in and say, which games am I going to go to honor my friend and honor my godson?
Yeah.
And so I look for these moments to create memories with people that I love.
Hmm.
Then where I can, I add stuff to them so I can get more done, like get, the juice, make it more worth the squeeze of going somewhere.
Right.
I schedule in my baseball. I love baseball. So I say, what great baseball things will I do this year? And so I'm going to go to Oakland A's on September 26th. You're invited to join me for the last Oakland A's game. Got to be there for the last game. And I went to the Negro Leagues game in the middle of July off in Rookwood Field in Birmingham.
Oh,
I
that
went to
was
the
awesome,
All-Star
wasn't
game.
it?
It was ridiculous. It was beautiful. It was stunning. So I put all these things in my calendar first.
Yeah.
Then I say, what do I want to learn this year? And then I put 25 days of seminars that I go to as a participant, not the teacher.
Yeah.
And I schedule those in. I'll be like, okay, I'm funnel hacking here and I'm doing this here and I'm going to work with Ben Hardy over here. And I put all my dates in. And I say, okay, when am I going to go on vacation? I try to go to 3 or 4 national parks a year. I
Hmm.
want to get them all 63, takes 16 years to do it.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to go on a couple international trips. Now, this year's been tough, candidly. My father-in-law's 96. He's in and out of hospitals all the time. And my wife is tentative about doing travel.
Yeah.
And it's not, she wants to be able to see her dad when he's, having trouble and doesn't want to have COVID. And COVID is all over the place. I'm just coming out of it. That's the little bark that I have.
Yeah.
Uh, so she's been a hesitant traveler. And so this year I've traveled kind of by myself because it's that year.
Hmm.
We are fortunate that we have parents that are still alive past the 80s and all the way to 96. Together, they've been married 130 years, which is
Wow.
just crazy. You have to be married when you're a kid, live forever, and not be very attractive. So you don't have a lot of options. That's what I think.
Right.
Um, so
We just passed 38 years this week. So,
you did 38 this week?
yeah.
Congratulations. We just passed 29.
Yeah.
So here's what I do with the days that are left. Then I say, okay, I got to make this living. And then I say, okay, which things can I afford to do?
Right.
And then I say, okay, I'm going to do these things. And what kind of people do I need to bring in for extension? And as this evolves and I've gotten older, I do less things.
Yeah.
Today, I think, I create, and then I recruit. So I think up something, then I figure out how to make it work. And
Hmm.
I said, who could do that? Which is why I originally reached out to you. I was like, I'm going to need a copywriter, and
Yeah.
you're as good as all of them. So, say, can't do this all myself. I'm going to do less things. Not like trying to figure out how to save every penny. I'm trying to make money, not save money.
Right.
And you got to spend some money to get some. And I'm trying to buy my time back. And so that's what I do.
You're really good at that. You're like the idea machine, but you delegate it. Okay, this is my idea. I can try to learn how to do it myself, or I can find an expert and let them do it.
And I think there's a time where you have to learn something so that you can manage something.
Hmm.
But my time on that is over. Now it's kind of like I kind of get how this is going to work.
Yeah.
I don't need to know all this stuff. I need to know like what we're going to do. And so I try to chunk up. My goal the rest of the way out is to build a business that will get to $5 million of gross sales. And then I want to be out of it and then have a team that keeps going. And then I want to do a new one. I just want to kick one or two of them out a year.
Yeah.
This year, I got a couple of projects in. I just bought a software firm, and I'm buying a prestigious institute with a historic in this field leader. I'm not able to say what it is yet because we haven't transacted it, but I'm looking for things that I can use my talents to scale that haven't had my talents.
Hmm.
So, you can't add value everywhere. Not everyone, for what I do, I'm really good. Not everybody needs what I do.
Right.
So I look for the place and say, how can I monetize this? And there's times where you're a consultant. And there's
Right.
time where you're better off just buying it and fixing it and growing it and holding it and then recruiting the people. And when I was 25, I didn't have the ability to attract those kind of people.
Yeah.
Um, for the people that are listening here, nobody's 25. We know something, we have networks, we've done something in the world. So I say, why don't you leverage that and bring some people that are peers, bring some gray hair or no hair into the equation, but
Yeah.
also bring some young ones. Bring some high potentials that you can pour your life and cut 15 or 20 years off their learning curve.
Hmm.
That'll be there so that when I'm old and forget my name, and I hope that doesn't happen, but if it happened to a president, it can happen to us.
Right.
that still creates sustenance and that there's no fear in the land.
Yeah.
And I don't I don't mean to simplify. It's that simple. I don't know that it's easy.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to make it like, oh, won't that be easy? It is simple though, and that's what I'm trying to do, Ted.
Yeah. And you're always engaging with people. That's what I like. Because I've been doing a lot of research and running some ads. The biggest fear of men our age is isolation. It's like 10 times more people click on that ad than any other ad.
And what are they responding to?
I'm just offering different, like an ebook about the 4 stages of retirement. I see a lot of people, the honeymoon phase. Oh, I'm retired. And you go travel for a while, you drink beer, you golf. And after a while, it's like, okay, I'm bored with that. What's next? And some people just fade away. Other people like you and me, let's figure out what can I do for the next 5 or 10 years or 20 years.
Yeah, you know what I do, and you notice all the baseball stuff behind me, and there's rooms full of it. I'm in the office. It's in I'm in the basement of a mall, and nobody has public access to this, and it's climate controlled, and so it's perfect because I have my greatest treasures everywhere. I love baseball, and so I run my life around baseball. And one of my investments was the Field of Dreams. I bought the as one of the partners of the original Field of Dreams to bring that to life.
Yeah.
I I look at what am I interested in all the time so that things are always alive for me. And the more I spend, you buy a piece of the Field of Dreams, and I'm not a majority owner, I'm a minority owner, to be clear.
Yeah.
I was on the board and I helped get a major league game there. I have watched the movie over and over and over. And what happened for me, Ted, is I'm actually wearing a Field of Dreams shirt right now. Didn't realize it till I saw the. Um, I made an acronym, Field of Dreams, and I said, what would be fun and what would be impossible? And for every letter of Field of Dreams, there are 13. Every year I put like, what are 8 things that I could put in there? So there's 104. And my philosophy is have so many things that interest you in your life that you can't possibly cross them off.
Yeah.
And every time you cross them off, it exponentially gets more interesting and you're never waiting to be bored and you're never like, I don't have time to be sick.
Right.
I don't have time to be tired. I have things I'm excited about. So how do you not get wearisome and tired and bored and alone? Get out of your house.
Yes.
Make a list of stuff you're excited about. In fact, if why don't we give everyone that listens to this, we'll make a download. I'll give you a document and they can look at it. How about that?
Cool. That's awesome.
So I made this list of Field of Dreams, and every year I say, okay, what are the 4 big ones that I don't think are possible? I'm also a person of faith. And even though I swear like a sailor, sometimes that surprises people, but I am. And if it's stuff that I know I can do, that's really not a dream or even a goal. It's a to-do list.
Hmm.
So I say, what can't be done? Like, I have no idea how this could happen. It would take a miracle. And then if I don't think I can do it, but it would be awesome, I leave it up to God and say, well, God, if have you ever heard like the greatest day of your life is you get a boat, second best day is you sell your boat?
Yeah.
I make my list of dreams and then I say, hey, God, if this is a boat, make it clear that I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
If not, I'm going to play with the idea that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then extraordinary things happen all the time. I'm a pretty average person, but I have a above average interesting life because I write stuff down and then it shows up for me.
Yeah.
I
Do
think
you
that's
set goals at all?
I do all the time. I set dreams first and then I pick things to make goals.
Okay.
So I do a fair amount of goal setting. Um, and I'm getting smarter, more rituals. I work more on rituals. Like, what's my ritual? A friend of mine passed this last week, and we won't get caught in the weeds on who he was because he was big. But if a guy that's young, 44, can die, be like, well, maybe we got to take ourselves seriously. So I said,
Right.
it's time to change some rituals. There's some things I got to do better. So I'm reevaluating, but I set goals. More often, they're time goals. Who will I spend time with?
Right.
Will I go to events with? I look and say, I haven't spent enough time with my kids. I call my parents almost every day, but they're far away. So how do I get back to see my family? How do I get back to see my mom and dad? And not just for the holidays when everyone's there, but for days when there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
That's awesome. It's kind of, you just mentioned Brian Kurtz before we got on the air, our friend, and we're the
Yeah, I
same
love
age.
Brian.
And I was saying, well, maybe I won't join his mastermind next year. Because why? What else are you going to do? He says, my idea of retirement is saying no to everything that I don't want to do and do what I love.
I love that. I think it's a great way to not be retired.
Yeah.
Why, like you can I'm gonna get good at all these things. I don't know. I kind of want to get good at the things I'm good at and not do the other things at all. I
Right.
mean, it's not like food. I don't love vegetables, but I know I should eat them and I should eat them more and I should eat beans and less meat and less sugar. So I'm trying to do that. But when it comes to work, I control how that works.
Right.
And this is not science. My science is don't do things you hate. Don't do things you're not good at.
Yeah.
Don't do things for work that you're not good at, even if you like them.
Right.
Why? I need performance. If I want to learn it, do that outside. I'm not saying don't do things you're not good at. Just don't do them for your work. Do them outside of work.
Right.
Learn outside of work.
Yeah.
I can hit a baseball for hell, but I like trying to hit them. I'm not doing that for a job. But
Yeah.
boy, do I like to go to a batting cage. You
They
know,
closed our batting cage here recently.
did they say that dang Marin County?
I
Too
know.
much money up there. The golf is taking all of our time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wanted to share this idea of Richard Bowles, and you and I talked. Have you ever, he came from Walnut uh, Creek up by you. I don't know if
Yeah.
you know. And he wrote this book, what was transformative to me that I think would be really helpful for most people that are, getting 60-ish and
Hmm.
above and saying, what do I do next? Is to inventory. Um, in 2001, I had a midlife crisis. I was only 37, and I'll turn 60 on Monday, by the way. And I didn't want to do what I was doing. I kind of fell into it by accident, didn't want to do it. And I didn't love doing the work. I didn't love who I was working with. When I came home, I didn't love my wife. She just irritated me. The kids got like I was in a funk
Yeah.
and I wanted to take like a psychological bath. I wanted to get clean. And I read that Richard Bowles, the author of What Color Your Parachute, was offering his last 19-day retreat. Pay a bunch of money,
Yeah.
go to Mount Bend, Oregon, and be on top Bend, Oregon, be on Mount Bachelor is what it was called.
Yeah.
And then over 19 days, August 1st to August 19th, my birthday, for 21 days, for 19 days, sorry, you would explore you. And that would help other people explore them.
Wow.
And so all day long, you would write stories about yourself and read it to people, and people would give you feedback of what they think you are excited about. And you do that twice a day, and you'd have four people a day. So, like at the end, 60 or more people had given you feedback, and themes emerge. And
Wow.
then this is my Well, look at how messed up. You see all the battle on this thing? This thing, this thing has been in my life 23 years, but we made a list like what's important to you where you live. And where are places that you could live like that?
Hmm.
And then it said, and how do you want to work? What are your working conditions? It said, what do you need for money? What's the lowest? What's the highest? What other rewards do you want? Psychic rewards. I put independence, laughter, chance to use my expertise, chance to be creative, chance to laugh. And then it said, what kind of people do you like? Who are the people that you want to spend your time with? And so I made them open, motivated, risk taking, visionary, responsible, purposeful, local, well managed, value driven, stewards, thankful, pay early, high profile, challenging, challenge, take advice. And then what kind of people would those be? And then I list the class of the worker. And I said, and who do I want to work with? What kind of people do you want to be as your peers? And then, like, when it comes to information, how do you want your information to come in? And what do you want to do with it? And what are the things you want to use your skills for? And then it said, at the work I'd most love to do I want to produce a product or some service, or do I want to help people with information? And you write about that. What's your central driving motivation? And then it said, what's your long range goal? And then you wrote your philosophy of life. And I have this usually next to my desk, and I look at it all the time. And
Yeah.
I thought, like, I thought my job was wrong. And I want to show you something. On the bottom of it, I started making a list of all the jobs that I could do all those things.
Wow.
And it was like 40. And then I realized that my job is all 40 of these things. I could do all of these right now.
Hmm.
I hated and had a contempt for a job that was perfect for me. I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I came home, actually left it a day early. I was like, I want to go home and spend my time with my family on my birthday. And less than a month later was September 11th, and the world ended. And then September 21st, my child was born, my last child, my second child.
Wow.
Uh, we went through that period that everyone did as we overcame and tried to figure out how we dealt with the significance of 9/11.
Yeah.
And I got my life back, and I whistled while I worked every day since then. But until then, I had a stuckness.
Yeah. We
I
all get
felt.
there
Did you ever feel stuck, Ted?
all the time. Different periods over my career. You get into a
Where do you
job,
find what contributed to that for you? What contributed to you being stuck?
I would get bored. Like my first job was 10 years I worked there. And my next job was like 7 years. And then my next job was 2 years. Your tolerance level for, I don't like this anymore. I'm going to move on.
See, my version of that happened. I had 7 or 8 jobs in my first 9 years of professional employment with the top brands in the country. I'd find a top company and they'd say, "Oh, you're going to learn so much." And then I'd win an award and I'd go, "I want to do something else here." They go, "No, no, no, we want you to do that again." I said, "I thought I was going to learn. I broke a record. Why do I need to keep learning that? I want to learn something new." And they said,
Right.
"No, no, no. We want you to do this." I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to go over here." And that would happen and over and over. And then one day I said, "I'll go work for myself."
Yeah.
And when I worked for myself, it was all rockets and excitement for a while. And then I got bored of me.
Hmm.
And I looked at this, I go look in the mirror and say, my boss is an idiot. It was me. And that's when I decided I'm going to work for myself. And when I get bored, I'll just get new clients.
Hmm.
What's happened over time is I've realized that my friends that didn't have the same talents are making more money.
Yeah.
And it's because they did something and were predictable and they were reliable. because they had a reputation for something they had done for 20 years. And I typically got bored of things in 5.
Hmm.
And then I said, maybe it's time to get paid. Maybe I don't need to know everything in the world. Maybe
Right.
I've learned some things and I'll transform the places that I play and pick my targets. But maybe the answer is to create more and not learn all the time. And so I decided to get passionate about making things based on what I knew.
Yeah.
And there's a time to read and there's a time to make.
Right.
And ideally, we do both at the same time, is what I think.
Hmm.
What's your take on that?
Well, my career, I started in 1980 fixing computers. This is when there were very few computers in offices. And we'd actually have to fix components on the boards. We'd have oscilloscopes and meters. And we'd have to troubleshoot. So we had to actually know what we were doing. Then over time, computers got easier to fix. And basically, you're just swapping units now.
Yeah.
Same with computer networking. We had to configure routers and bridges, and you had to know what you were doing. Now it's like plug it in, it configures itself. So my career, going from high in demand, making a lot of money, they said, we can't pay you that. And they would lay us off. That's when I started working for myself.
That makes sense to me. I have actually in 1984, I studied computer science and accounting and philosophy. And I never really was a programmer, but I understood how to create architecture. And
Yeah.
I walked in to the tax commissioner of North Dakota. I sold him a consulting project at 19 to design the capital's tax commissioner's computer system. And in it, I did surveys and I designed token rings. And, we didn't have this software. So I color coded it with this is a 30-plus-year-old highlighter. Like, what a highlighter that was, right? No cheap ink there. And I did these spreadsheets and like VisiCalc. And, but, this document from 30 some years ago, all of it was obsolete in 3 years.
Yeah.
But you never know where it took you because it took me to what I do now.
Right.
And I didn't know how to do that. You know what I think was interesting, and maybe it was true for you too. Do you remember doing stuff because you said this needs to be done or it would be cool? And it never occurred to you that you didn't know how to do it? I
Hmm.
didn't know how to do this. I figured it out by not knowing how to do it. And then you get to a spot where, well, I don't know how to do it. I can't. And I
Right.
think maybe a message for all of our friends that would be listening is I stop asking how. I don't care. I don't care how I listen. Our elected officials have to like command for all kinds of things they don't know anything about
Right.
and find people that they think know about. And apparently they're wrong most of the time. But
Right.
I, I just trust that I know how to find people that know how to do stuff. So I'll do what I'm great and make it like I kind of think that if I have a dream, the dream wants me.
Yeah.
The dream wants me. So let's quit worrying about it and let God do all the work. And then I
Yeah.
just go do it. I don't,
Trust your
again,
gut.
simple. What's that?
You got to trust your gut sometimes.
Yeah, I trust your faith. Faith, I think, is belief in the
Yeah.
unseen. Like, I don't know how, but I know. So, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to work.
Right. So I have one last question for you.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think of the new baseball rules that speed up the game?
Wow, it's a great question. And I think it's probably good that they did them. I hate that they had to. I hate, and this is broader, but I hate that they got rid of the shift. I mean, that if we want to shift and you can't bunt, not baseball's problem. It's player. Like Rod Carew would have got a double on every play with the shift.
Right.
And the third time he got a double, you wouldn't shift on him.
Right.
How do I know that? Because they tried to shift on Ted Williams.
Yeah.
Like, listen, but here's what happened. None of the dummies learn to hit. And so games are boring to watch.
Yeah.
And, I don't love that they made it so you can't keep throwing to the base. It makes the game faster, which is good. But now people that are awful stealers can steal a base,
And they
and
made
they
the
made
bases
the
bigger
base
to make it
bigger.
easier.
They made the base bigger, and I like that because it reduces injuries.
Yeah.
So I don't love it, but I get it. At the end of the day, baseball has changed.
Yeah.
And baseball, the reason baseball's kind of lost its interest, I don't think is the speed of the game. I think there was a time where people played catch with their dads.
Yeah.
And if you played catch with your dad or your mom, as it were, but it was
Right.
usually your dad, and you didn't know and you threw wild and you couldn't hit a ball, and your dad said, "You're getting better at this." And then you were 6 inches taller.
Hmm.
And in a group of post um, 30s depression kind of people that were raised by grandparents that had nothing and not really communicative men a lot.
Yeah.
It was a chance for your dad to just sit and throw back and forth, shout a couple instructions to you, and at the end, you got that hug from a societal man that didn't do that as often.
Right.
And then when you were old, you were like, I'm going to go play catch with my kid. But if you didn't have that, you didn't do it.
Right.
No, I had that. My dad played catch with me, even when he didn't have time. And he was athletic and I wasn't. And he was
Yeah.
kind to me and he said, you can do this. And I got a love for baseball. My kids didn't, though. So sometimes, we also lived in a country that when I was a kid had two stations.
Yeah.
We only got two stations out on the farm. And we didn't have the internet. We went to the thing called the library, kids. And, we had a party line and nobody had a phone on them. And
Right.
like I'd read the paper and I'd find out who won the game the night before at 4 o'clock. And then I'd memorize the statistics and no one could look it up on the phone. So I was probably nicknamed Google.
Yeah.
They like I was Google. What's the batting average? 329. Because I could remember it. Like that world changed. So I get baseball comes and goes, but
They would only post the stats on Sundays where we live. So if you want to see all the batting averages and the team averages, it was only on Sunday.
is that right? That's interesting. I remember, what kid didn't remember sitting in their garage playing catch or hitting a wiffle ball against the wall, listening to the radio. Like
Exactly.
it's what we did. And it was like Sandlot. Sandlot was real.
Yeah.
So baseball had to change. It's not great, but 2.5 hour games are a lot better for most people. Attendance probably got saved.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am looking forward to their initiatives to get more people of color into the game.
Yeah.
A lot of our best athletes have strayed from the game, partly, I think, because not as much fathers in the lives of the people. But
Hmm.
you look at who plays baseball, Latins.
Right.
Who's got a culture where dad's present? Latins.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so, the better our fathers do, the more fathers are involved in their lives, I think more kids will be in baseball. But baseball's always 10 years ahead of the country.
Mm.
Whatever happens with baseball is the future. We just had another Asian invasion this year. All the players coming in. You bet that we are going to see an explosion of Asian immigrants, which is lovely for our culture. Brings like hot talent people to our culture. It's going to be great. It's going to
Yeah.
bring challenges. Um, but so I love watching baseball to see, what are we going to be talking about in 10 years in the news?
Right.
Because baseball had the first integration and baseball had the first managers and baseball had the first unions and whatever baseball does, the world follows. So watch for baseball. It's still the king of the land.
I agree with that. Boy, now that you say that, it's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean the superstar contracts, the so many things.
Yeah.
I could go do a. I recommend watch. There's nothing lovelier than Ken Burns baseball And then
Yeah.
his sequel was, it was 9 innings. There were 9 episodes.
Yep.
And then you want to stream something, you don't have to stream like killer shows or something. Go stream baseball, Ken Burns, and then watch the 10th inning, the reprise. And that talked about Hideo Nomo, and some of the players that came across. Um, I think there's going to be so much excitement. I think the basketball at the Olympics was interesting. The Dream Team, I saw a statistic. The Dream Team faced 9 NBA players
Yeah.
this year's team faced, I think, 62 NBA players on other teams.
Yeah.
Like, if you can play, he will come. Like, listen, if you can play basketball in the world, they will find you.
Yes, they will.
My youngest went to Baylor, and I think they have 2 or 3 basketball players from Cameroon every year.
Yeah.
One of them first rounder last year, Walter Misty. Um, so that's not the right word. Uh, what is it? Anyhow, the Missy kid's going to be 6'11". He's 18 years old, or 19. And it'll take him 2 years, but in 2 years, this kid is going to be wonderful.
Yeah.
And so, whenever that much talent is coming from around the world and comes, it makes for a better world. It gets more people involved. What do you think the chance basketball doesn't become more interesting after that Olympics where so many teams were on the same level? Like
Yeah.
Serbia is this big
Right.
and it loses to our team of superstars by 5.
Yeah.
Now they have a multiple time MVP on that team. And they have guys who can shoot the tray. They can they play
Yeah.
defense. And there's no 3-second rule, which helps. So I'm for all those things.
Yeah. And look at the women's basketball taking off now. It's great.
Crazy. So great. So great. I went to Caitlin Clark's first game at home, May 15th, took some of our friends, and I just wanted to be there
Yeah.
because I think it was the coming out for that sport. I think that coming out, imagine how many girls are going to come out to summer camp this summer because of Caitlin Clark, and how many there'll be next year.
Yeah.
And when those collective girls, there's X amount of them that have fight in the dog that says, I'm not going to let somebody beat me. What that's going to mean to that sport in 8 years.
Yeah.
And all of those people that contended that instead of sitting around their house, were out playing a sport and moving, what that's going to make for what they think is possible when it comes to should I be a doctor or engineer or a lawyer or whatever. Um, I think we're at a great time. It's a great time.
It is.
Whenever access to everything is available, regardless of your gender, your color, and in our case, our age,
Yeah.
when productivity wins, life is a good time. I
Hmm.
I think I think a thing for us to bring this to a logical end is most people that are listening to this particular thing are not young,
Right.
and but we're not done.
Hmm.
And in a time where so many things need to be done, where there are so many problems, it's time for the elders, the chiefs, the people who've been around, the wise people at the end of this circle to show up. And so
Yeah.
find out what you're passionate about. And it might be you do community service. It might say, I don't want to run for something, but I want to get somebody elected.
Right.
Might be that you're active in your church and your elder and give wisdom to somebody who's got the legs, but maybe not the brain right now,
Yeah.
that they're in their development. Maybe it's time to be a grandparent and be the parent that we weren't,
Yeah.
and make up for that and give some wisdom. My grandparents died relatively young, 3 of 4 did.
Mm.
And so we didn't have that force in our life. And some people, like I was raised by my grandparents.
Yeah.
Nobody ever said my life's bad because my grandparents were in my life.
Right. It's true.
So that'd be our challenges. We're called to different things. There's so many delicious choices.
Yeah.
Make a good choice and get out there. You're needed. We're needed. We're
Yeah.
needed. You're needed. I need you still, Ted.
Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Well, thank you so much. It's always great chatting with you and happy birthday.
Thank you, sir.
A big one.
It's a day. You know what I do on my birthday? I call my mom and dad and I thank them every year. That's what I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'll call them Monday morning and say, Ma, Dad, big day for me. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be having this day. So
That's
thank you.
right.
Sorry for being a jackass.
I love it. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, sir.